Hello and welcome to the Princess Podcast. This episode I'm going to rebroadcast a thing from the Renaissance Podcast where my friend Alice was interviewed. So enjoy. Here it is.
Hello and welcome to the Renaissance Podcast. I'm Colleen Cook and I am here today with Alice Magado, Miss Ohio, and Madeline Carter, who is Miss Greater Cleveland. And she is competing this year for the title of Miss Ohio, and Alice is getting ready to pass on her crown. But what's really exciting for us is not only are they doing that on our stage this month, but they are also both on our stage this July and August in The Little Mermaid. So welcome. I'm so thrilled you guys are here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thank you so much.
So we're going to just start the way we always start. And if you could each tell us your 5-minute life story, just where did you grow up? How did you get on the journey that you're on right now? What brought you here today? So Alice, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So I was actually born in Texas. Lived there for a year. Moved to Detroit. That's where my brother was born, Leo. He is 16, so 2 years younger than me. And from there we moved to Cincinnati. And in Cincinnati, that's where I kind of got my start in the arts. My mom came into my room one night, and I have such a distinct memory of this. I had to be like 4 or 5, but I still remember it. She sat down on my bed, and she said, "Do you want to play violin or piano?" And I had no option, and so I said, violin, because my cousin, who was a girl, played violin.
Oh, so girls play violin.
Right. So I was like, yeah, violin. Because my cousin, who was a boy, played piano.
That's why I played flute.
I was like, I don't want to play piano. I'm like a boy. I'm going to do violin. So from that point, I studied Suzuki violin for 8 years. Yeah. And during that time, I moved to Toledo, Ohio, continued violin, and then moved back to Cincinnati, Ohio. My parents are both very artistic. I've definitely grown up around the arts. They're more fine arts.
Your mom's a visual artist, right?
Yes, yeah. And so is my dad. My dad's an art teacher. He does more sculpture art, and my mom does more of the fine arts. And so I've just grown up in that setting, which has definitely fostered my love for the arts, except I didn't really get the visual arts gene and more of the other type, like the performing arts. Yeah. And about, I want to say like around my 7th year of violin, I started at CCM Prep, started studying there, and there came this day, which is kind of like, I guess, advising for your classes for the next prep semester. So it was this thing called CCM Prep, which is for pre-college kids as young as like 3 or 4. And so I went into this advising kind of convention setting and was signing up for my violin classes for the next semester, and saw this flyer in the corner that said auditions for the spring musical held October blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Mom, I want to do this." And she was like, "What? You want to do musical theater? We're signing up for violin." I was like, "But I want to do that." And she said, "Okay, well, you're not taking any musical theater classes. Are you just going to wing it?" And I was like, "Well, maybe I should do one musical theater class." So she signed me up for a musical theater dance class, which, you know, is not great prep for an audition, but was thrown into that class, and from there met all of these musical theater people, and those became my people. Lauren Everett, who played Belle last year, was actually one of those people.
Oh, that's so funny.
She's
my dressing room buddy.
Yeah,
that is so funny.
So then they were the ones that introduced me to all these different classes, like the voice classes and the acting classes, and from that point on, have always been a musical theater girl, and was not a pageant girl at all until I decided musical theater was not the career choice for me, and I wanted to explore other options, but then I didn't want my 12 years of musical theater
performance training and all that
just to go to complete waste. So I was like, Miss America system, perfect. I can use my talent, but I can explore fashion, I can explore fitness, I can explore public speaking, politics. It was perfect, and I definitely found my niche. I only competed for 2 years, and now I'm here.
Which is so weird. I mean, are there other Miss Ohio's where they had such a short duration in that program?
It's been
I can't
a
think of
long time. Yeah.
Was it in the 90s, I think? Or
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know I'm the youngest Miss Ohio in 55 years, but
Oh,
I'm not
goodness.
sure how long it's been since a girl's won on her first try.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing. That's
Yeah, and
amazing.
it's definitely been great because I had my year to kind of get my head on straight, but have realized, you know, if I would have done this for 6 years, maybe it wouldn't have been something that I would have been as passionate
It
about
totally would have
after
been a different
6 years.
experience.
Yeah, because I'm not a pageant girl. It's not my life. Growing up, I wasn't like, I want to be Miss America. Growing up, I was like, I want to be on Broadway.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been a life goal. So getting it kind of on my first try and then being opened to all these different crafts and opportunities, I now know what I want to do and where I want to continue on. So it's been a whirlwind and it's been amazing.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. How about you, Madeline?
Okay, well, actually, I think it's kind of funny because I had no idea that you were born in Texas. Alice was born in Texas, and I was almost born in Texas. So I was born here in sunny Mansfield, Ohio. But I think my parents moved within weeks of my birth.
Oh.
So my dad actually moved for work. So they had relocated. Originally, they were in Kentucky, where my brother was born, and that's where both my parents grew up. And all my extended family lives there too. So they moved from Kentucky to Texas for about 6 years, and so my brother was 6, and then they moved back to Mansfield, and then I was born. So I always like to describe my life as this weird realization of a dream, like similar to Alice's. I have had the same dreams ever since I can remember, and it's strange to me. I mean, they've evolved, but they've never changed. And so those obviously have to do with the arts, and musical theater and dance especially. And they came on very early. My parents always tell me that I basically was singing and dancing right when I was born. So I was the kid that would go to restaurants and sing for the crowd. I would sing for my family and dance for my family at Christmas and all the holidays. And gosh, I was always into it. I mean, the first time I got my pair of tap shoes, I took them to Hobby Lobby and would dance on the counter.
Yeah.
So that was who I was, and that was my life. So at a very early age, I think I must have been about 3, my mom put me in dance classes, and she also put me in like a music moves class, actually here in downtown Mansfield. Yeah. So I started that when I was super young, and I instantly just fell in love with it. And I always ask my mom today, how did you know? How'd you know? And other than it being obvious with me obviously loving it around the house and dancing or whatever, I don't know. I have these ornaments on the Christmas tree dated the year I was born, and it's Clara the Nutcracker.
Aww.
How did my mom know that
That was
eventually?
your destiny. Yeah.
I mean, that was my dream role all throughout.
How many years were you Clara with Opus?
Actually, it was Clara twice.
Yeah.
My junior and senior year in high school here. 1 year at the Renaissance,
And
and
then
1 year in Ashland.
Yeah, you were young.
Yeah, so, gosh, like, I was just wondering, like, how did you know? So,
Yeah.
I still don't know the answer to that. She said, moms know, so that's what she says.
It's true, they do.
Yeah, they do. So, it started to get more serious for me. I would say the biggest part of my life, definitely in that, when you look at the arts, would be my dance education. I started at the Richland Academy here in Mansfield, and then when I was old enough, I switched over to Opus 2 Dance Studio, and then where I eventually, obviously, I fell in love with it and auditioned for the Ashland Regional Ballet Company. So we specialized in all kinds of dance, and that was definitely my life. I lived at the studio, called it my home. Helly Schussler, who's the founder of the company, she quickly became, I guess you could say, my second mom or my mentor or grandmother or something like that. So that was definitely one of the biggest parts. Other than that, I also was very involved in the musical scene throughout Mansfield. I started out at Children's Opera Theater at the Richland Academy with Laurie Turner, and then I went over to the Playhouse, the Mansfield Playhouse, did a couple musicals there, and it was hard because I had such a busy dance schedule. So we were performing in probably, I would guess it was about 7 performance series a year, and maybe more depending on the year and how old you were and what parts you were getting.
Sure.
So I was always trying to squeeze in that musical, and I had an agreement with my directors that yes, you could do a musical. So it had to be a good one.
Yes, you really picked, yeah.
Exactly. So we had a good agreement, and honestly, I would not change that decision to stay in dance. Even though I had to forfeit a little bit of where I could have been doing musicals year round, I still could take private voice lessons, and I still could study on my own, but that dance education is something that you can't really make up for later in life, because as you grow and develop, you grow into
Your
the
body
dancer.
changes,
Yes,
yeah.
and so you need that at a young age, especially for what I want to do with my life. So I made a good decision, and then I guess the musicals that I was doing during high school would have been the ones at my school, which was St. Peter's High School. I went there all throughout elementary, junior high, and high school. I loved St. Peter's. Fabulous education, and I'm also very academic, so I really enjoyed it there. And other than that, I started getting involved with the Renaissance musicals. I actually have a little bit of a funny story. I used to audition for them when I was younger, but I never made it in because I used to have stage fright terribly.
Oh, no.
And I don't know why I didn't have it when I danced. I didn't have it in my voice recitals.
Yeah.
But whenever I would audition for a musical, I would forget the words.
Oh.
And I have these memories of being probably like 7 or 8 years old. I remember when I auditioned for The Sound of Music here. And I think I did get a call back, so that was a step. But I remember standing on stage and I just completely blanked on the words. And I was singing, I believe I sang Maybe from Annie.
Yeah. Who hasn't sung Maybe from
Who
Annie?
doesn't know the lyrics of that song, so I forgot the lyrics. And I was so scared, and my mom would always talk to me afterwards and say, well, you did good, honey, you did good. And I knew I did good, but I was still frustrated.
Yeah.
And so I never made it in the Renaissance musicals until it was my senior year in high school. Well, I actually hadn't auditioned until then, so I took a long break just because with dance, it was very serious in the summer, so I couldn't do the summer musicals. But the year before I went to college, that was the chance, and I was like, oh, wow, what a great way, like how Alice is doing before she goes off to Kent. I was like, what a great way to spend my summer before I go to school. So I auditioned for Mary Poppins and was, to my surprise, having never been cast, I was cast as Mary Poppins' understudy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And gosh, ever since, I've just been wanting to do all the musicals here at the Ren. And I guess throughout high school, I decided, okay, it's time to get serious about my career and what I want to do. So we have a very similar story, Alice. So I also started doing the summer intensives and the different college preparations for musical theater at the time, and I didn't know that my career path was kind of going to evolve into, it's almost like a fork in the road, but they cross in the middle, which
there's a lot of
I'll explain later.
Yeah.
But yes, I started going to summer intensives. Most notably, I went to Interlochen Center for the Arts, and I will never forget that experience. It also, fun fact, looks like the Parent Trap, the campsite. So
that's so funny.
Yeah, I know. So you're not only at an arts camp, but you're also at the Parent Trap.
That is so awesome.
I also did stuff with CCM. I did one of the summer workshops. Actually studied at Baldwin Wallace one summer. Gosh, so a lot of things. And that's how I got started with my voice professor there. So, that being said, when I went to Baldwin Wallace, it instantly became my dream school. And I knew that I wanted to go there. It was the first school I ever visited, first program I went to. So, it was an easy decision as far as school. But the hardest decision was, where am I going? What major? So, I was always musical theater. That's it. That's the path. And it is still the path, but I also didn't want to forget my academics. Because, not that musical theater is not academic, but it's very intensive. It's very intense program, and it's arts focused. Yeah. Whereas I have always been very academic myself, and I love school and I love studying and I just love that rigorous educational background. So I decided to double major, and my double major at Baldwin Wallace, where I ended up, is theater and then also broadcasting. Perfect. And like I said, I mean, I love public speaking. It goes right along with. It's the fork in the road, but it crosses
it makes a lot
with
of
the media.
Sense.
I mean, it crosses.
You could really take either path. I think anything, especially in the field like the way it is today, I think anything that broadens your horizons and gives you more, flexibility that you can do other things, like the better. The more equipped you are to do any of the things you want to do. The more versatile you are. And absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, like, it's all under the same umbrella. Absolutely. Especially since I'm looking at more of a media career path. But everybody's telling a story.
Absolutely. Everyone has a story.
Is it a fictional story? Is it a non-fictional story?
Absolutely.
Is it a news piece? Whatever it is, but it's always.
Yeah, and then now you could say I'm choosing to share my story through the Miss America organization.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with the pageant then?
This is funny too. I have had this dream, but it's been very deep within me. Like, it was creeping up throughout my entire life. I couldn't even count the number of parents, teachers, friends, when I was like 5 years old, telling me, oh, you're going to be Miss Ohio one day, or oh, you should start competing like in the teen system or something like that. And I guess I was just so focused on dance and theater that I was like, well, not right now, but maybe when the time is right. And I've always been like a everything happens for a reason person. And it wasn't until, I got this random Facebook message from Terry Hurley, actually, who's in charge of the production, back when I was a sophomore in high school. And I don't even think I knew who she was at the time, so I don't know how she found me, or I don't know who told her about me. I was
Just a secret way.
yeah, I was like 16 years old. I was like, oh, what is this? And I opened it, and she said, hi, Madeline, I'm looking for a singer for the finals night of the Miss Ohio pageant. And I wish you could see my face on this podcast right now, because I was like, the national anthem? I've never sang the national anthem for anything. And my first thought was, well, I'm nervous. Yeah. And then I was like, Miss Ohio pageant? Oh my gosh. The finals night. Wow, that's Saturday. That's a big deal. There's a lot of people there. I just said yes. And I asked her the date, and I figured that I could do it. And it actually was the day after I got home from Interlochen.
Oh my goodness.
So I was
exhausted, I'm sure.
Exhausted, but so excited and so motivated because I had just gotten back from this amazing arts camp. And I was like, well, now I get to do something really cool. So I did it, and I remember sitting backstage, and like Alice said, I'm not a pageant girl. I had no idea what it was like back there, and I only got to sit back there for like an hour. But, I mean, I was sitting back there watching all the contestants run around, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's so beautiful, and oh, they're intelligent and amazing, and wow, it's so cool to see this and see what it's like. So the bug kind of, it went up from like my stomach to like my chest and stayed there. And then the following year, Terry contacted me again and asked me to be a dancer in the pageant. So I was like, okay, wow, like they want me to keep being a part of this. Okay, great. So I danced in the production this time, so I got to be there all of Miss Ohio week, get the backstage experience there, and then I got to see how fun it was to be on the entertainment side of it. And once again, I was obsessed with the contestants. I remember I tried to get to know, I think I memorized their names within a day, and I was like rattling off like trying to remember facts about them. I was like trying to be like them, like, oh, I loved her outfit, like where did she get that? So that was when, okay, so it was about my chest, and now it's about up to my throat. So the dream was creeping up, and then I actually realized that, wow, I'd love to be a vocalist in the pageant. I was having so much fun as a dancer, but I mean, I think as most triple threats can relate, like, it's hard because you want to do everything. Yeah. And I've always been that way. I'm always wanting to do everything at the same time. So whatever I'm not doing, I always want to do.
Right.
So then the following year, that was my first year at Baldwin Wallace last year. I was a freshman, and I heard that they were auditioning for the vocalist. So I auditioned and then was, I guess you could say, cast as a vocalist. And last year it was this past summer when Alice won Miss Ohio that I was a vocalist. And that was the time of my life. And some of my very best friends, Dion Taylor, who's going to be our Sebastian, he was in it, and that made it one of the best summers. And of course, I literally, the day after the pageant, so it was, I don't know, what was the date last year?
June 19th.
June 19th?
The day after.
June 19th, I woke up and I said, this starts today. So I've been preparing for almost a year now, and I remember that day I woke up really early and I went to a gym I had inquired about, and because I gained a little bit of weight in college, I went to the gym and I signed up with a personal trainer, and that was it. And I think I even, this is scary, I think I even messaged Sarah Hyder, who was Miss Ohio before Alice. I messaged her on Facebook, and I remember being so scared to press send. I was like, hi, I was one of the vocalists, like, I don't know if you remember me, but can we get, like, I'd love to, like, pick your brain. I want to start competing, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know where to start. I'm not a pageant girl.
She's been in the program forever. She was a Miss
Right, she was Miss Ohio's teen, yeah. So I figured what a good person to ask, and I considered her a friend at that point. And she messaged me probably within 5 minutes and said, let's get coffee today. And there's something like that. And so we met, and she gave me a lot of advice, and I've been preparing ever since. And honestly, I definitely can say that this has been the happiest year of my life.
That's awesome.
I just have always had a passion for making a difference and for being that role model, and this is the outlet to do that and to be a representative of the community and beyond.
Yeah, awesome. Wow, that's like both of you. Your journeys are similar and yet so different.
Yeah,
It's so funny
very
to
true.
hear. It's interesting. It does seem like a lot of the Miss Ohio contestants have some sort of like performance background, and that is in many ways their like initial step in the door to the program, because it is such. I mean, that there are not a million places to have these set few minutes where you get to just kind of showcase the whole thing.
Talent is such an important part.
Yeah,
of
I
the
mean,
competition.
it's
First
general.
points. Yeah.
To have stage presence and to be comfortable on stage. I mean,
Confidence.
you gotta have it, or else you're stiff and nervous, and that can ruin you.
It just seems like it builds so many life skills that are applicable
absolutely.
in so many arenas, and I think that maybe is one of the misconceptions about pageants in general, is that it's all about like the look, but really it's
really not. I mean,
at least not the Miss America organization as much.
Right. But I mean, it plays a role in it, but I mean, it comes down to the person. It's the person.
Yep.
Yeah.
As a whole.
100%.
You're both, I mean, in the realm of like pageant participants, you guys are both kind of new to that program. So, Alice, having gone through it a year and going into it this year, Madeline, what are your favorite parts of the process, and what are the parts that are the biggest challenges that intimidate you, that make you feel squirmy, or just what are those for you?
So for me, the prep, it's such a journey, because you slowly start to become the best version of yourself, and I stress this so much at orientation this year. There's such a misconception about the crown, and every single person that competes in Miss Ohio has the chance to win, because you become your best self, and that's winning. The crown just becomes the representative of all the girls who, in my opinion, have won because you've made it this far. And to go to the state competition, you can vouch, like, you have to be the best version of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, because it's an intense week. It's very hard. And so just getting through that, you win. And the crowned girl is the person that kind of, in a way, just fully, it was her time. And, she's the one who fully got to the best version of herself. And she's going to go on, and the whole process is going to repeat for Miss America. And the girl that's crowned Miss America is the representative of all the states. And, again, it was her time. And I still consider myself a winner just for going to Miss America.
Absolutely.
Because it's like Miss Ohio, but it's times 2.
Yeah.
And it's 2 weeks. And it's more intense than Miss Ohio. And it's hard. And it was such a growing experience for me. Those 2 weeks transformed me completely. So, honestly, if I was to go back to Miss America after having those 2 weeks of growth, I probably would have done a lot better.
Sure.
Because that's how much I grew in those 2 weeks. And
what are the sorts of things that you're doing in those 2 weeks?
So much. I was actually going back through rehearsal pictures yesterday. The cameraman always got me asleep on the floor in my Miss Ohio blankets. I was always napping. You can say that. But those 2 weeks, you are constantly in the public's eye. You are never turned off. You're always turned on, even when you're back in your hotel room, because you're with your roommate, and you're turned on, and you're being your most energetic and your most social self. For me, that's not completely natural to be always very social, very talkative. I'm extrovertly
So you're an outgoing introvert?
Introverted, yes. So I have to have my me time, and I have to also have the social time, or else I get lonely. And so those 2 weeks, you just kind of lose that balance, because you don't really have any me time unless, like my coach said, go to the bathroom if you want to have your you time, because that's the only place you're going to get it at Miss America. But you do a lot of appearances, you talk to a lot of people, you listen to a lot of people, you're interviewed, you're going to restaurants, and you're getting the best meals in the entire world, but you have to compete in swimsuits.
You can't eat them.
But you learn a lot about yourself, and especially being an 18-year-old with numerous 24-year-olds who have gone through college, who have graduated. I learned so much about life in those 2 weeks, and about why I'm doing this, and about how many doors this is going to open. And as Sam Haskell said, and this has stuck with me forever and ever, and it will stick with me forever and ever, is that this is something that's going to eventually fall off my resume, because it's not what you should aspire to be. You should not aspire to be Miss Ohio. You should not aspire to be Miss State, because that's a foundation and that's a platform to jump off. So you're going to get 6 more greater things out of it, that Miss Ohio 2016 is eventually going to go away, and you're going to have 6 more better things, but that's going to be because of the year. So obviously the opportunities, the becoming the best version of myself, the growth, that's been the best part for me, for sure. Challenges obviously are fighting the stigma, which we all have, and coming from Cincinnati, it's been very difficult because it's not a pageant city, it's not very well known, and I remember my first couple months with the Crown, trying to get in the media, trying to kind of get hyped up in Cincinnati was very difficult, because news stations would be like, well, what is this? Like, why?
Right.
Then I had to explain it, and I did, get a couple of nice news stories. The Cincinnati Enquirer did something on me in one of the news stations, which was great. But there would be so many times I would try to do something extra in my community or in my city, and would go out in the Crown and Sash to make sure I was doing things, was being active, and would just get completely rejected being out in a Crown. And that was definitely hard for my first couple months, and I really learned, again, after Miss America, to just kind of shut it down. And I'm, like I said at orientation, I'm not your typical Miss Ohio. I'm not gonna go out in the public, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat things, and I'm not going to talk differently than I would talk if I was just being Alice. And so I've learned just to go out and be myself. And if people come up to me and say, I've gotten this numerous times, they'll be like, do the pageant wave. I'm like, no, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. And honestly, these last couple of months, I've stopped going into my appearances wearing a crown and sash, because it depends on the appearance, obviously, but if I know it's somewhere like a college or a school that might not completely grasp the concept, I go in there and I establish myself first,
really
and
wise.
Then I put on the crown and sash, because if I walk in a crown and sash, I lose a lot of people.
That's interesting. That is something I've never thought about before. I bet
That's
that
very
is
true.
a real challenge.
Because they don't listen what comes out of your mouth when you're wearing the crown.
Yeah.
But once you establish yourself, and I have an important message to share, and I have spent a lot of time developing it, and it shows my intellect, and I'm not just a girl coming
in fact, you're right. In fact, your platform is actually the opposite of what the perception of that crown is.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's
you're
why
all about
I find
authenticity.
myself not wearing it a lot, and it's not an insult to the program at all.
No.
It is
To break down that barrier,
Yeah,
it sounds like. That's wise.
That's been the biggest challenge, is breaking that stigma, especially with what I'm talking about. I remember, I think when I would get drilled pageant questions or interview questions for prep, I would always be asked, how can this be your platform if you're looking like a untouchable, idolized female in a crown and sash? And I'm like, that's not what this is. I take the crown and sash off, and I'm a normal teenager. I struggle with acne. I have insecurities. I've just found the best ways to get over those and to push them aside and focus on what's important. And that's what I want to teach other girls. I'm not here to be that role model. I'm here to be that peer and to be that friend. When I go into schools, that's my goal. I let all the middle schoolers Snapchat me. I let them have my messaging. Other than my phone number, they can message me on whatever. And I'm there to just talk to them and be their friend. I don't necessarily like being called a role model. I don't like saying I'm a role model, because I'm a peer. I'm someone who wants to inspire girls to be the best versions of themselves. I don't want to inspire them to become me. And I feel like that can get twisted sometimes with a role model.
That's an important thing you just said there, that you want them to inspire them to be the best versions of themselves without feeling like they need to modify who they are to become somebody else.
Exactly.
That's really huge.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about for you, Madeline? What have been your favorite parts so far? What are the challenges? What are the things that make you go, oh?
You're probably in the heat of it right now.
It's getting close.
It's almost a month out.
30 days from yesterday.
30 days from yesterday, and I believe a month from Monday.
Yeah,
right?
and when this releases, I think it's just about a week before. So.
Wow. Well, gosh, definitely the positives outweigh the challenges, I would say. I mean, the challenges are a big part of it as well. But for me, it is the preparation, and it's the journey, and it's the way I feel after, almost a year now. I feel my most confident self, and I feel that I've just developed into, like what Alice was saying, the best version of myself. And even though I know that's not fulfilled, and I know that that's probably a lifelong process of getting there, but just the fact that it has gotten me this far in such a short amount of time. So that's definitely what I look forward to most, and in the future, as far as like where this ends up going, seeing how far I can push myself to be better and to set my goals even higher in the future. But as far as the actual, like if you take a look at the actual competitions, the actual parts of the competition, I would say, and this one's a no-brainer, you're probably going to guess that my favorite part is talent.
Well, sure. That's
That's
your comfort zone.
Yeah, it's my comfort zone. I've actually chosen to sing. I had it was actually kind of a difficult decision for me.
Can you tell us what's on?
No, that is a secret. That is a secret. So I will save that one for, it'll be June 16th when you'll hear that. So I decided to sing. I went through a period where I was like, oh my gosh, do I dance? Do I do both? Do I sing? I don't know what to do. I love both so much. And I tooled with the idea of tap for a while. But actually ended up settling on singing because that's where I share my story, and that's my first love. And being on that stage and getting to be able to share that and to have that audience have a glimpse of, what makes me the majority of who I am today. That's why it's my favorite, and that's when this stage feels like home, and it reminds me of those feelings that I have in a musical.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice because you've been on our stage a lot.
Yeah,
it feels like home field advantage a little bit. You know where you are. You know the acoustics.
Yeah, and like kind of going off of how we talked about the being home. It is, and it feels that way. I've danced the Nutcracker here more times than I could probably count. Other performance opportunities, and then of course the musicals and the upcoming shows in the future, I'm sure. And it is home, and it's a magical place, the stage, and you walk out there and it just, it feels like it's where you're meant to be. But I also got to have that little bit of a backstage look as an entertainer the past few years of seeing what Miss Ohio Week is like and realizing that it is still that home and it's always going to be. And having been here before, I think that definitely is an advantage. And as far as like where my mindset's going to be throughout the week, but at the same time, it's definitely different. The way I like to think of it is, anytime I've been on the stage, whether it was dancing, singing, performing a musical, the stage is another world, and I am a character, and I walk out on the stage, and it's something imaginative and creative, and we're creating this picture of the impossible almost for the audience. And like you said, there is that divide between the audience and the stage, but we're bringing them into this new world that as a cast, we're creating. Whether it's the land of the Sugar Plum Fairy or Vermont and White Christmas. Right. Gosh, it could be anything. And that's where it's different for me, because with Miss Ohio and Miss Ohio Week, that stage is not another world. It's real life. And that stage is putting yourself out there, and I'm not a character. I'm putting on shoes, but they're my high heels, and they're Madeline's shoes, what Madeline chooses to wear, and I'm being Madeline Carter. I'm not being Judy Haynes or, Babette with a French accent. It's me out there, and that kind of ties back into what I think the biggest challenge is, because that's vulnerable.
I was just going to say, that is much more
so vulnerable. And being a performer my whole life, I never knew what it was like to walk on stage and be myself. And that was one of the biggest challenges I've had in my preparation. And even when I started competing in locals just this past season, this is my first year, so I'm going in fresh, and I think I kind of imagined it to be similar. which it is in some ways with the talent and all that. But honestly, my first pageant, I was like, this is so different, but in a great way. And I felt kind of out of my element when I was actually there in the now, and I was like, what is it? How do I tap into that feeling? I can't describe. I always had the same feeling when I perform. And it's like my most confident, and my stage presence, I can tell it's definitely on, and I feel like I'm very in the moment. And I'm like, how do you find that when I'm not playing anything? And I haven't rehearsed lines, but I've rehearsed interview questions, and I've rehearsed my walk and all these things that I used to walk like a dancer, and now I have to learn how to walk like a model. Like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. And so, yeah, it's a vulnerable process, but like I said, like, the positives outweigh the challenges, because that challenge of it being vulnerable, it turns into an advantage, because when you can overcome that takes courage. And that is when you become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word. Let's just talk really quickly about what you're excited about with Little Mermaid. I am so excited about Little Mermaid. So tell me a little bit. I mean, so Alice, you're playing Ariel.
Yes.
Which is such an exciting role.
Yes, it's one of my dream roles. And this is very, very funny. And I'm a little hesitant to say it, but I'm going to say it anyways because it's authentic and that's what I'm all about. So getting Ariel was a dream come true. And obviously being Miss Ohio has become a dream come true. But that was never a life goal of mine. And I remember texting my mom, and she thought I was insane when I texted her. I was like, I think I'll audition for The Little Mermaid at the Renaissance, because this whole year as Miss Ohio, I am a believer in like omens and the world telling you stuff and getting energies. I have just gotten so many things about Little Mermaid. Little like omens and stuff. I would go to an appearance and I would see a flyer for it, or I went to a convention and they had a table, and I was just like, is the world trying to tell me something here? And then I found out that my lease at Kent in my apartment goes for the whole month of July, and I was like, okay, this is weird. What am I gonna do all of July in Northern Ohio? And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should just audition for Little Mermaid. And I called Dion, I think, one night, and I tried to call Madeline, but you didn't answer.
Miss Ohio.
So I ended up calling Dion and was like, hey, like, is this something I can do, like, with Miss Ohio Week? And he was like, oh yeah, like, I do it, Madeline did it.
Yeah, it starts right after.
Right, and I was like, okay. So I gave it a whack, and it was my first time auditioning in a musical for, like, 3 years.
Yeah.
And so it was, I've been a while. It had been a while. I was pretty rusty. But getting that part was just, for me, it was kind of closure on this whole process pre-college, because I had spent, 12 years of, and honestly, I was sick the day of my audition, and I called my mom after, and I was like, I think I blew it. Like, I don't think this is gonna happen. And I just remember explaining to her how crushed I was, because I had done 12 years of musical theater prep, and ever since I was a little girl and I went to my first musical, which was a high school musical that was at my dad's school where he was teaching art, I remember looking at the girl who had the lead role, and it was her senior year, and I had always wanted that. And unfortunately that never happened for me in high school, and I dropped out of my senior year musical to pursue Miss Ohio, because, you can't. It's not something you can juggle, and I didn't have that lead role that I really wanted, so I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on Miss Ohio. And so getting this role is just that kind of cherry on top of this whole process. And again, with Miss Ohio, I would have never had the confidence to do it. I would have never had the skill set to do it, because holy crap, how, like, my performing skills have improved so much within a year, because I do it
all
4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah, it's your job.
And I used to have unbearable stage fright too, and this year, this is the first, like, going to that callback, that was the first time I had ever sung without getting nervous, was at that callback. And that's, again, because of Miss Ohio. And so it's the cherry on top, and it's the best way, because honestly, with my college workload, musicals are not going to be an option.
Oh yeah,
come the fall.
Yes.
So
it's a good opportunity to get.
It's that last chance, and it's really that dream come true for me, and it makes me giddy. I'm so excited, and have Miss Ohio to thank for getting me there 100% and for doing so much for me, because like I said, I would never have the courage, the confidence, or the skill set to do it without
cool.
this year. And so that's another benefit of Miss Ohio for me. But yeah, it's a dream come true, and I'm very excited to get on stage again. Yeah.
Madeline, this is your third summer musical in a row, right? Am I right?
Yes, 3 and then one in the winter.
So what keeps you coming back?
I honestly hadn't been in a musical that was run the way the Renaissance runs them until I was in Mary Poppins. And I was immediately impressed with the professionalism. And honestly, this is a little bit of a funny thing. I remember in my Mary Poppins audition, it was, I actually had to come on a day that wasn't the actual audition day. And so it was actually just Michael Thomas in the room with the piano. It was just him, and he was playing for me. And I did the dance call by myself in front of him on carpet. And it was so crazy. And we were having a great time and talking. And it was, like I said, my first one in so many years. And I was nervous, but like Alice said, like, I felt confident and ready. And I knew that it was going to be a good opportunity. But gosh, just auditioning there and hearing him say, this is the funny part, he like leaned over to me, and I knew it must have gone well because he said this, and he was like, "Do you know you get paid for this?" I was like, what? Like, because this brings back a memory of my mom and I driving past, we used to go to we get season tickets for the Playhouse Square. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big thing that we always loved doing, going to see all the Broadway tours, the Broadway series. And so I remember one day we drove by the stage door and saw the actors coming out after the show, and I was like, "Is that them? Is that them?" And I was young, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's them!" And she was like, "Yeah, well, I mean, honey, that's their job. Like they come in and then they leave and then they come back tomorrow." Mm-hmm. And I said, "What? That's their job?" And she said, "Yeah, that's their job." And I said, "What do you mean, like, they get paid?" And she said, "Yeah, they do." You didn't know that? And I said, "Well, no, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life." And that moment when he said that to me, it brought back those feelings because I had never been paid. And I know that's not, and that is not what it's all about. And that is...
No, but it feels legitimate.
Right, and I was just like, it was like that...
It's the real life thing.
That real life confirmation
awesome.
that I was finally, like, following my career. And I finally saw...
that first step into that.
Yeah, that first step into the professional world. Yeah. And professional is the word that encompasses these musicals here. I mean, they're put together in such a short amount of time. It's like usually a month and a half or maybe 2, maybe. And I know White Christmas was very, very short. And everything is, at the same time...
are high.
Right, it's strict, but it's a family. Yeah. It's strict in the sense of we have this X amount of time to produce this amazing show. Mm-hmm. So let's come together, let's get it done, let's be on time and do your job. And if we all do the best of our jobs, then it's going to be a great show. And I am a very, very organized person. Well, sometimes, maybe not my room, but I'm very organized when it comes to school and theater and note-taking and all that. But, so for me, having that structure, I mean, it was like, wow, this is seamless. Yeah. And the show was coming together way faster than anything I'd ever been a part of. And I love that feeling because the faster it came together, the more of opportunity we had to make it better. And you weren't focused on the little things that hold you back. It was more on push your acting further, or you can sing this even more powerfully than you could before. So it was definitely there's definitely a lot of growth in these musicals and the family aspect. I mean, growing up in Mansfield, we have a largely local cast, but I mean, we also don't. I mean, we have people like Alice coming in, and she's from Cincinnati. We had Lauren last year from Cincinnati.
Is from California.
Exactly. So it draws from other areas too. So you're not only, I mean, for me, I was not only being with my friends, I was also meeting very talented individuals from all over the place. Yeah. So that's been something that keeps me coming back. And Mansfield's my home, and my family moved away from Mansfield. So my mom lives in Kentucky now, and my dad moved to Indiana. So I live in Cleveland when I go to school, and I need that piece of home. for me, and coming back here to do the musicals.
Good opportunity to plug back in.
Exactly, that's what it gives me. And gosh, Disney has been, oh my gosh, I am a Disney girl through and through.
Well, it's such a great thing for our audience too, because
Right.
it is so family friendly, and we have
Right.
a lot of families that have kind of developed a tradition now
Right.
of like bringing their small children and coming to see the summer musical. I know my daughter, it's like she's been excited for months about Little Mermaid. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I mean it's every little girl's dream. Like
Yeah.
Alice was
Right.
saying, and I mean she went to all the appearances that were themed to Little Mermaid. Like everyone loves it,
Yeah.
and you just can't go wrong with that. And for me, my favorite Disney show is actually Beauty and the Beast. So last summer was just
You were such a delight as Babette.
Oh, it was so
And how
fun.
fun was it to see the live action film this year too? Having just come out
I think
of
I
that.
cried about 3 times during it. I loved it. I left the theater and I went with my mom and my grandma and my stepdad. And when we left the theater, I was singing. And my family was probably like, "What is she doing?" And I actually started waltzing with my grandma in the lobby, and everyone was looking at us.
It was so beautiful though.
It was
I
gorgeous.
haven't seen it.
Oh,
Alice, you
Is that
have
what
to.
you're doing?
I haven't time!
You're going tonight.
I'm gonna go sit by myself. I
It's
have so many
so
movies.
good.
I just watched Moana too.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
I can
feel
fill you in on Moana. I think I've seen it every day since it came out.
I believe
Okay,
it.
you guys.
Yeah, but gosh,
Eat in the cookhouse.
yes. Well, anyway, so loving Beauty and the Beast, and also loving The Little Mermaid ever since I can remember. It's just going to be amazing to be a part of it, and that Disney magic, you can't really beat that.
You really can't. They're great. They're masters of storytelling. So.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for being here. If you would like to see both Alice and Madeline on stage at Miss Ohio, tell me the dates.
16th, 17th, and 18th are the preliminaries.
15.
15th, 16th, 17th. I'm still in last year. 15th, 16th, 17th are preliminaries, but we're also doing a great new thing this year. I don't know how public they've been about this, but I'll be the first to say it if that's the case. Well, I do not know. I think you know. So actually, we're making the parade, the Miss Ohio parade, the Sunday before. I'm not sure the exact date, but the Sunday of that week. A lot bigger and better than we ever
I didn't know this.
had before. So obviously we're gonna have the parade, but following the parade, we're actually doing a kind of preview in the Brickyard. So we're going to have some of our performers like Dion
I love
and
that.
a couple others who are going to kind of preview the production side of Miss Ohio. So
Great idea.
and you're actually gonna get an opportunity, and this is big for me because oftentimes the community doesn't get to really know the contestants prior to the competition before they read their stats and their facts in the program book. So we're actually going to have Rusty Cates kind of interviewing and bouncing off of the contestants during this time, so the community can kind of get to know them. And also for Miss America Serves Day, which is actually a fundraising platform for our national platform, which is Children's Miracle Network Hospitals. We all raised money to dunk people in a dunking, whatever they're called, dunking booth. So that's actually going to be going on after the parade too. So I get to dunk my executive director and my dad.
That's
The contestants all have people that they're going to dunk as well.
Fun.
So it's going to be a big event, so that's free. So I mean, come out to that, come see.
I love the community support. Too.
Come see what's going on for the week.
An awesome opportunity for people to plug in, even if they just are kind of wondering.
Right, especially if they can't make it to the pageants.
Absolutely.
The 3 nights are. I mean,
There's so much
it costs money to go, and
Well,
so
long
this
before
is a
I worked
great
for the
way.
Ren, I came for the Miss Ohio prelims and finals.
It's
fun
so fun,
week.
and actually a Thursday night. They have, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this either, but I'm going to say it anyways. They actually have me and Dion doing Part of Your World and Under the Sea. So, a little preview into Little Mermaid.
That's
and then,
awesome.
prior to rehearsals even starting.
I
So,
love that.
that'll be
Awesome.
Thursday night. Thursday night prelims are Disney themed. So,
That's
that would be a
I didn't even
great
know that.
night
That's
to
so amazing.
exciting.
bring in your kiddos. If you don't come finals night or Friday night, if you can only make it, Thursday night would be the best time to bring your kids. So
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then Little Mermaid is on stage July 29th and 30th and August 5th and 6th. And tickets are already on sale for that at MansfieldTickets.com. So if you are just thinking, oh my goodness, I can't wait to see these girls on stage. Get them now because they're going to go quick, I think. So,
Yay, thank you so
girls,
much
for being here.
Thank you.
The Renaissance Podcast is a production of the Renaissance Performing Arts Association, a non-profit performing arts center in Mansfield, Ohio. We'd like to thank the band Trooper for the use of their song, Hope of Something Different, as our theme music. You can learn more about the Renaissance Performing Arts by visiting MansfieldTickets.com.
Thanks for listening. See ya.